So I was texting with you earlier, and I
Mhm.
had to throw this on one because we're recording it the day before the
Yeah.
NBA finals start, and
Okay.
I'm a huge Celtics fan, but
Sure.
also because uh, Patrick over at 18 South sent me
Yeah.
one of the I shouted him out or something, or me and
That's
Patrick
cool.
Martin talked about it
Yeah.
on a podcast,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
he sent it to me, and I was like, I ought to wear it because I knew you would be wearing something
Right. Yeah.
similar,
Yeah.
and he sent me one of the gray ones, and then
Oh yeah.
I had to rethink it because I was like, I'm recording a bunch of these. Everybody knows I live in Trussville, and I was like, I was gonna get the whole like he's
Um,
biased.
Homer.
Trustful. He's a homer. So like I'm not wearing it underneath either.
I understand.
But yeah,
Understand.
I had to avoid all the calls of being a homer.
I understand that, but
Nice shirt.
whatever.
They got good
Hey,
stuff.
I like them. They do a good job on their stuff for sure. So
They do.
I think.
So we're recording this in the summer, so y'all have done the
Okay.
spring stuff and
Sure.
all that. And first, just what let's get this one out of the way. What do you think it's going to be like first time in forever that Peyton's obviously not playing for you, but now he's going to be doing his own thing probably on Fridays, prepping for his college and whatnot. What's that going to be like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different without Peyton for sure. I think, first of all, I had a great time coaching him. It was a lot of fun. And so sometimes you hear bad stories, good stories with coaches and dad, coaching their kids, but ours was, I mean, I'm sure there were a few tough days for Peyton along the way, but more often than not, it was an awesome experience. I think both of us enjoyed, and and he balled out and played well, in his career, and so that made it fun. He's been doing some different QB training a little bit. He's gone to QB country a few times, just to have somebody else in his ear besides dad talking quarterback stuff, and it'll be different. There's a certain comfort level with him there, just because I knew he knew so much about the system and had grown up in it and all that. But we're excited to see where future takes him though. So, I think it'll be good for him probably just to have somebody else, in his ear, different coaches,
Yeah,
and so he'll have to adjust to that a little bit too.
that's right. So how was spring for y'all and breaking in the new covered facility and all that?
Spring was great for us. Unless something crazy happens in my life, I'm never gonna not do the spring football thing. I just think there's too many advantages for it. I understand why some guys don't do it, and there's also some issues depending on the size of school and sharing athletes, all those kind of things. And we share some athletes too. But even if we don't have all of our guys, I feel like it's so good for us. I think as much as anybody I've coached here, this group probably I felt like gained the most out of spring ball. Two reasons. I think we got a lot better at what we were trying to do, and offense, defense, and special teams. But also, we were able to evaluate. I think there's so much evaluation that mattered. It matters every year, but just we don't have as many experienced guys on offense, so we really needed to see guys in live action, and so that was great for us. We were able to play a spring game against Parker, which is really good competition. I mean,
Sure.
we won't play anybody with more college prospects than Parker, and so that was a good challenge for us on both sides of the ball. Um, and so again, we learned a ton about our team. So I think I thought it was very successful spring. And I think our guys, we found out who we are. I think they gained some confidence. Also, and I think that was important to me this spring.
What were like specifically from that spring game? Because I mean I know spring games are different, but it was a bit of a shootout in a way.
Yeah.
What offensively, what were some of those takeaways for you?
Well, we ran the ball pretty well that day. And our offensive line, I mean, we're replacing a lot up front. I mean, so that's a spot that again we have a lot of competition there, and guys trying to prove what they can do. So I think we're not huge on the O line this year. We've definitely had bigger guys, but we are pretty athletic, and I think our guys did a really good job against a really good defensive front. Again, those guys are I'll probably go in the SEC. And so, our pace helps us a little bit when we play a team like that. But our O line did a really good job offensively. We had good quarterback play. I thought Noah Dobbins played well. Parker Floyd played some quarterback as well, played a few series there in the first half. I think Noah showed what he can do at that position. He's a guy that's got really good speed. I mean, he's a 4.6 40 guy, but he can throw the football well as well. So, we had some guys out. We had a couple guys, returning guys, James Kelly and Dylan Cope. They didn't play one snap in spring because of injuries. Those are two guys that were starting games and playing last year. So they were some of our few guys that were returning that didn't get to go through spring. So and so that was tough in some ways, but obviously, and I hated it for them, but a lot of other guys to step up and see what they can do.
How about and I don't know when approval stuff and all that happened, but was Ethan there calling plays and whatnot for the spring game?
Yeah, Ethan. Coach Carroll got here about the first part, sometime in April, mid-April.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, Coach Carroll's come in and done a great job for us. He had a high-powered offense at Hueytown, and he's been a great addition to our staff. And he's a really sharp offensive mind. Um, Coaches the kids really well. He's really detail oriented, which I like a lot. And so, it's been good. I think it's been a good transition for us. Offensively, we're gonna always kind of be who we are. We're not going to change too terribly much, but he's brought some different things to the table. We were going to have to change anyway, and then that's what we told our kids from the beginning. We're not. I mean, every year you got to adjust. And so last year you had several starters back on offense, so there might not be as much adjusting. Whereas this year you've got, really 3 or 4 guys that played last year on Friday nights offensively. So, we're having to change. We're just making adjustments. I believe you have to adjust to what you have. I mean, it's high school football. We don't get to go pick our players out there. So, I mean, it's a matter of you have to evolve on both sides of the ball throughout every year.
Yeah. On the other side of that offensive coordinator discussion, obviously Ethan Carroll coming over from Hueytown, and when I talked to Coach Patterson at Hueytown, he said you'd be excited about your new guy.
Oh
But
yeah.
but on the other side of that, how bittersweet losing Juan to Baker, and I mean he was there for. I mean he's been at Hewitt a while, right?
He has. He just finished Juan. This was Juan's 8th year
That's what I
with us.
thought.
I think yeah, that's right. Yeah, his first season was 2016 when we hired him. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think bittersweet's the word. I mean, uh, I was fired up for one. He kind of been down this road with him a few times where he had some opportunities along the way. He's turned some head coaching jobs down, and people don't know that, but he's turned a few down along the way. So he's always had people coming after him every year, but we were able to, keep him here. And I think he wanted to be here. I think this was a tough one for him just because he knew it's a good opportunity, but even then, it was hard for him to leave. His family's been here, his kids are here, and so I know it was an easy move for either one of us. But so I obviously hate to lose him. He brought so much to the table here and did a lot of things and did a great job for us. So it's definitely a loss for us, but at the same time, I'm just excited. He's in a good spot. Again, this is a playoff team that 7A playoff team. First head coaching job. They're Baker's one like third or fourth biggest school in the state of Alabama. So, I mean, I think that's a heck of an opportunity. So that's the part of me that was excited for him. I mean, if you're going to venture out there and do your own thing, then you want to be at a good spot. So I think he's excited about it.
Yeah, y'all need to get you a nice little non-region week 5 trip to the beach with Baker in the future.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that, man. Be good, or at least a spring game or something down, go to the beach, whatever.
Yeah,
So we'll see
yeah,
what happens, man. So, but yeah, it's all. I mean, as a head coach, it's always awesome to see your guys go be head coaches. I mean, I've just finished. This is my 20th year as a head coach this past season, and I was looking the other day. I think we've had 12 guys go be head coaches from our staffs over the years,
wow,
and so I mean, I think that's just really it's fun to see them go out there and do their own thing, and I think the Lord uses people throughout, and I've been in 2 different states, so it's people really all over the country. There's probably
yeah,
4 different states I'm thinking of right now, just off the top of my head, of guys that have been head coaches that are, throughout the country. So it's fun to watch them go and do well.
Yeah. You just mentioned you just finished year 20 as a head coach. Well, you're about to break that tie this year, and this will be year 11 at Hewitt, and you
Yeah.
had 10 years at Shiloh in Arkansas. Can you believe it's been that long?
No, it's crazy, man. It doesn't seem that long.
It doesn't.
My wife Kate, we were looking at something the other day. It was like an old article came up. I think June 2nd was the day I actually got high, like as far as official, like had a press conference and all that,
Yeah.
several years ago. So we were looking at it, something came across as 10 years. So the other day, but yeah, it's crazy, man. But I think it's been a fun ride, and I think our best days are ahead of us for sure. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Let's get into this schedule a little bit. I've got it on this other screen over here, so that's where I'm looking. But we'll get into the region in a second because that's always easy to
Yeah.
talk about. But how did this non region schedule come about for you guys? You've got August 23rd. You're opening at home against Jag. The next week hosting Gadsden City, and then September 27 traveling to Pinson Valley. I know that's been a non-region game in the past, but just how did that non-region schedule form for you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all over the place every year with the non-region. I mean, it just it depends, what region you're in. The interesting thing to me every year is always all these rumors about classifications, teams coming in, region, this region. There's been rumors of us going back north. We're not
I've
gonna
heard.
we're always gonna be 7A, but there's been rumors of that every year. So that always plays a part of it because you have to know kind of what you're going to be doing there travel wise before you decide, hey, this I'm okay doing this way. But anyway, the thing with Jag, I mean they're a team out of Montgomery that they're actually going to come here 2 years in a row. So that we're doing that thing where we'll get two home games in a row. So that was a win for us just to be able to do that
Yeah.
with. So this year we actually have six home games, which is pretty rare, and then next year we have five.
Okay.
So that's kind of a nice deal for us. Gaston City's been a really good game for us. Ali's been there at Gaston for a long time. We've had some great battles over the years.
Yeah.
Last year we kind of pulled away in the fourth quarter. It was a really good ball game. Yeah, they always challenge us just athletically and speed wise, and I think it's a good game for them. Both teams travel well. It's a good game.
Sure.
Sometimes I mean, it's easier for us to get to Gaston sometimes than it is to Hoover. Depending on the time of day on a Friday.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
what I mean. So like, it's
Yeah.
it's
50,
really pretty
50,
easy for us to
50,
get there.
yeah, 59 north after you get through Trussville and Argo is pretty much a
Yeah,
breeze.
exactly. It's pretty easy. So I think both teams like playing that game. Again, it's been we're usually going to pack our side over there, and they're going to pack their side when they come here. So, we've had some good. They're a team that's been a playoff team. I mean, I think they ended up going to quarterfinals in 6A last year. So, and they have a lot of guys returning this year. And then Pinson Valley just, that's something just happened to come up again this year. We've played them different times, throughout the years. We've played them week 0 in the past. This year it's week 5. Because we did that thing again where we have week 10 off. So, we'll play 0, 1, and 5. And then, like you said, our region, we know what that's about. So
Well, let's talk about is Roy Upchurch the Jag coach?
I think he just got that job. I think. Yeah.
Like the Roy, I mean the Roy Upchurch that played at Alabama.
I think so. I think that's what just happened. So,
I got
which
to
they
get
did
him.
not have a coach when we had made the transition there. We actually didn't do that with the coach. It was the administration there. So
Right. Okay. I saw that name and I hadn't seen that name in a while, so that'll be fun. Um, let's talk about the region because we talk about it every year, and every year it's like, oh, it's SEC West of high school football. It still is. I mean, you lost Spain Park and Chelsea, but congratulations, you add Prattville and Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. So congrats on that.
yeah, definitely.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just continues to get tougher every year. I think we're all compete with each other. I think whether that's obviously on the field, if that's off the field, if that's competing with trying to get, you try to keep your staff together. They're trying to, people try to take your staff or, all those kind of things. I think facilities, Everybody's trying to keep up with each other. You know what I mean? So I think it all makes us better. Definitely a big challenge. I mean, I think that the new ones this year, you're looking at Prattville, which they didn't have the year they normally have last year, but they have the ability to down there. They have talent. And the thing about them, I mean, they've won state championships there, and they've been to state championship games, within the last 10 or 12 years. And so you had them, and then you had Hillcrest out of Tuscaloosa, who's been rolling the last few years. I mean, they've only lost 3 games, I think, in 3 years. So Coach Mitchell does a really good job there. They're loaded with some talent, have a big time quarterback that's coming back. So it's tough, man. It's going to be really, really difficult to get in the playoffs this year for everybody. I think like every year, I think somebody's going to be on the outside looking in. That if they were in a different region, they might be playing in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be a big challenge.
How big is it? Like it's a full season. Obviously, you play 7 region games, so you don't necessarily miss the playoffs right away if you lose your first region game. But like, how critical is it to get off to a good start? Because y'all's first region game, September 6th at Vestavia Hills. I mean, that's obviously a big travel game. Playing there is always tough. They lost a lot off that team, but how big is it to get off to a good start? Because I mean, y'all go at Vestavia Hills and then host Hoover and host Hillcrest Tuscaloosa in 3 straight weeks.
So,
That's
yeah.
difficult.
I know, there's no doubt. I mean, those 3 games right there, again, you're talking about teams that were all, in the final 8, you know, of their classification. And then the other end of that, after you play Pinson week 5, you got Thompson the next week. And so, I'd challenge anybody probably in the country that 4-week stretch there with those, just for what those teams did and have done the last few years, is pretty difficult. Vestavia, that'll be a tough one to start out with going over there. We've obviously had some really good battles with them over the years. We've had several of our games the last few years that have come down really the last possession of the game. So I think they'll obviously be geared up for us that night, and we'll be geared up for them. So I think we'll both know that there's a lot on the line. But that's starting out. There's no time to you don't get to kind of walk your way into this thing. I mean, we got to be ready to roll by that 3rd game of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back in time for a minute. Y'all made the semifinals last year. You
Mhm.
have to go back to Thompson, and then it's kind of that 21-10 kind of slugfest. Do you feel in a way like y'all kind of broke through something in some sort of way, just reaching the semifinals last year?
I mean, I think in some ways, I mean, that's obviously not our ultimate goal. I mean, we want to win a blue map like everybody, and so that's not going to change. Um, I think that's some people made a bigger deal than it was from the standpoint of just. I mean, we've been so close. There's been really in the past, I guess you could say 6 or 8 years, we've had 2 different times where we lost by 1 point
Yeah.
from going to semifinals. One year we lost to Gadsden in the playoffs. We had beat them in the regular season. They beat us up here. Had a field goal blocked at the very end of the game that really was a big play in that game. And then of course 2 years ago at Hoover we lost in overtime going for 2 points to win the game. And so we've been right there. But anytime you get to practice Thanksgiving week, I mean that's an experience our kids will never forget. And again, the thing that makes it tough, the way the playoffs have been for the longest time, is just you're going to have to. You may beat these guys one time in the regular season and turn around and play them again 3 or 4 weeks later. So it makes it tough to do that. But it is what it is. You're going to have to beat. You're going to have to beat Hoover Thompson at some point. And so the last game obviously it was a close game. I mean that's a tough one. That it's hard to get over because we had our opportunities and had some chances and it's a great high school football game. We just weren't able to get it done there. But I think it's something I was proud of our team for in our program, and obviously that senior class was a special class that they can kind of always hang their hat on that.
Yeah. So who all now we can fast forward to present day. Uh this year we talked about Peyton, we've talked about some other guys that have graduated, but who are some guys that you're looking at this year that are back, that either bring some experience back, or some guys that y'all are looking to lean on both sides
Sure.
of the ball this fall?
Well, defensively, we have quite a few guys back from last year, so we've got to really, that's the more experienced group right now. Owen Robinson and Parker Floyd were our two leading tacklers at linebacker last year, and they're both back, and did a really good job last year. Both those guys have had really good off seasons, gotten strong, bigger and stronger, and so you got to have somebody. Those guys kind of call the shots, on defense, and so those are guys with high football IQs that I think can get people lined up right, and those type of things. So start with those guys just because they're two of our leading tacklers. Drew Wallace is a guy, defensive lineman that was a really good player for us last year. He'll be back, for his senior season. He ended up starting some as a sophomore even. We got in the playoffs. He started a lot then. So I mean, this will be his third year in a row to be playing big minutes. Mason Holloway is another senior D lineman that will play some. He starts on the offensive line, but also played a little bit of D line as well. Secondary wise, you can go. We lost some guys back there, but we do return some guys. Michael Igbenogany be a guy at the corner. He's a big time SEC prospect type kid, so he's gonna be his third year in a row to start. He's a guy that will try to play offensively as well, but. Will Phillips was a really good safety for us last year, and he's going to be even better this year, So we're excited about him. He put on a little bit of weight this offseason, got stronger as well. So there's some guys there. Owen Sewell will be a senior that played some last year. That got played some real moments last year. That he'll be ready to go this year. He's kind of an outside linebacker type. Denarius Crawford, Woogie's a guy that's very athletic off the edge. He'll play some outside backer. He can do a lot of different things. So, we're excited about what we have on that side of the ball for sure. Deontay Seals is a young kid that's really stepped up to be a sophomore. He's getting some big time offers right now. He's just going to keep getting better and better. Basil Lopsy is a guy that was in the mix a little bit last year. His brother Muhammad was a guy that graduated for us. He played some last year as a senior and was in the mix there. And so, he's got some good size. He's also a kicker. Actually, he's about 6'2", 250. And so it's a different, not many kickers like that. But
It's
he's
like
not. We have some other kickers, so he's not going to do everything. But he actually has a really really strong leg and can help us in that game, part of his game as well.
that sounds like you remember Cade Foster that kicked at Alabama
I do. I
about a
do.
decade ago. I used to talk to Cade when I was in college. Like I was interning and interviewing recruits and stuff. And at the time, I think he had committed to Alabama. And I started doing like, everybody wanted to talk to quarterbacks and receivers and running backs and that kind of thing. And I was no different. I was talking to them too. But I ended up doing it was like a weekly like recap or something with Cade where we talked about the game they had on Friday night. We talked about hunting, fishing. We talked about it all. And I
Yep.
think at the time, like, being the size he was obviously a great kicker, but like I think at the time he was being recruited by Texas Tech as a linebacker. So it,
Really?
it it
Okay.
sounded kind of similar where like he was
Sure.
being recruited like Big 12 linebacker, but
Mhm.
also SEC kicker,
Right.
just a different kind of
Right.
athlete.
Yeah. That's kind of how Basil is. He's very athletic for his size. Obviously, to be able to kick like that. I mean, he kicked the game-winning field goal when he was in eighth grade. I remember that game, and so I mean, he's a guy that's gonna be he's gonna do it. He's gonna be good for us. So offensively, I didn't talk about offense really as much. We've got some returners there. Obviously, not as many. Mason Holloway talked about him. He'll start on O line again and play D line. For some as well. Jacob Serena will be a guy, really his third year to start and be a big factor. He's a big time receiver that came back for us last year. He was, really one of our better guys, especially when play breaks down, and he really understands defenses, has a high football IQ. Cooper Langston's another guy coming back at receiver that it's going to be really really good. And started some games last year. He's a guy that just kind of has a savviness about him that I think can help us win. And again, I mentioned a few guys. The Dylan Cope and James Kelly, guys that were not didn't go through spring. So obviously helps to get them back. But Deuce Austin's a a running back that played a lot last year. I think he averaged 8 yards a carry last year, so he's coming back this year. So, and then C.J. Davis was a younger kid that we just moved up from the 8th grade. He'll be a ninth grader next year, and he made some big plays in our spring game. So, we feel like he has some weapons offensively. It's just some of it's young, so there's some youth there, but then some of it's just inexperience.
Yeah.
There's some guys just have to go get it done on Friday nights that haven't had to do it yet.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of that inexperience. I was going to ask this specifically about CJ, and you know me as an Alabama fan, this is hard to bring up, but CJ Davis, son of Chris Davis, part of a particular play in the Iron Bowl that I'm not going to name. Um, but how do you? I was going to ask this specifically about CJ, but just as a whole, guys with inexperience, they haven't played a lot on Friday night, but they are already pulling major college, if not
Mhm.
offers, interest. How do you kind of manage guys that are incredibly inexperienced but also super talented?
Sure. It's a good question. I mean, I think there's some challenges there. Um, you know, like anything, it always depends on, if the parents help with that, that helps a lot.
Sure.
So CJ's case particular, I think his dad's probably as hard on him. It's probably his biggest critic, you know what I
I
mean?
could
So,
imagine. Yeah.
and one thing about CJ, that I've already figured, again, I've only coached him for really a few weeks or a
For the
month,
spring.
but he definitely has great work ethic, and I think he comes to work every day. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, because what you have to tell the guys, and this is just the truth, is, I mean, these offers when you're young, until you sign on the dotted line, man, it doesn't mean anything. And so you've got to, it's important, and you want to try to give kids every opportunity. You want them to have the most opportunities as they can. And so if a guy's that young, you just got to keep them on, try to keep them humble, and try to keep them just understanding what they can do to get better. I mean, CJ, I mean, he'll be one of the most highly recruited kids in the state, and probably the country, if he keeps progressing in his age, in his class. And so but he's got to keep doing the things like he's doing. And again, I know he will. But those are the kind of things that you just have to, when guys get big time offers at that age, they just have to keep trying to improve because everybody else is getting better, and everybody else is getting stronger. Everybody else is working hard. And so, colleges will pull offers in a heartbeat. We've had kids get off, they were signed, committed for months, and then night before sign day, they get a phone call that, they don't have the scholarship offer anymore, and that's terrible and bad business. And I hate that part of the recruiting game. But it does happen. So, you just have to keep them, you don't want to keep them scared. You just want to keep them, hey, you got to stay on your toes, man. You got to keep improving, or else they can pull offer in a heartbeat. And then I was talking to a college coach the other day that told me he was pulling, not for our team, for another team, that he was pulling a couple offers because those kids hadn't progressed, and they were going into their senior year and weren't as good as they didn't really end up progressing like they thought, and so they don't have offers to that specific school anymore. So I mean, it does happen, and so it's like anything, man. You just got to stay on top of it.
Yeah. And CJ, he's class of 2028 then?
28, 28. Mhm.
How are we talking about class of 2028? I,
I know. Doesn't seem right, does it?
no, I think me and you have got it right. You don't have hair to gray, and I am covering all of mine up.
Do what you got to do, man. I just
Like
gave up a while back.
I just can't get over that though. Like like seeing some of these kids now, in their like profiles or whatever, they put their little huddle link or whatever, and they're like class of 2027, and I'm like, you're 21 classes after I graduated. Like,
No,
like,
I
like
know.
I used to get not upset, but there was a time like I started doing this pretty young. I was 20, 21 when I started covering games, and I'd have guys, that I'd talk to post game, and they'd be like, "Yes, sir, yes, sir," and I'm like, "You really don't have to do that. Like, I'm 3 years, 4 years older than you. You really don't have to do that." Now I'm like, all right, let's be
Yep.
respectful. Let's respect
Yep.
our elders now.
Yeah,
Um,
I know, man. It's crazy.
I'll get you out of here on this. I've been asking every coach. What are you looking forward to the most this fall?
I think just proving people wrong a little bit because I think our group I think that's kind of how they are. I think they have a little bit of chip on their shoulder, because they know that they're getting counted out in some areas, and partly just because again, we did lose a really good class, at one of those classes that had always won and been successful, and so that's the facts. We lost 30 something seniors, and so we're having to replace a lot of that. So that is true. But I think our guys, obviously, it starts with our senior class, but our entire team, I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder just to prove that they still want to be one of the elite teams in 7A. And like I said, we're trying to win that blue map. I mean, that's the goal. We've been one of the top 5 teams. I feel like every year for really the last 7 or 8 years, and so we're right there with those teams. We just it's a matter of some of that's when you get that level of the playoffs, the quarters, the semi, some of that's staying healthy, some of that's coming to some depth issues. There's a lot of factors, man. It's not like there's just one magical thing, and so sometimes it has to be right, and so our program's going to keep doing things that way, and even some something like facility upgrades help. We got this new pavilion this spring. We moved into that for the last few days of spring, and that's a big time deal. I mean, it's 70 yards of turf, completely. It's got 50 yards in the end zone, and we got some, a little bit of turf on both sides. So, but that's 70 more yards of practice space that we didn't have. That's obviously when the weather is bad. That's when it's 100 degrees in the summers, and it's 120 degrees on the turf down there. So, from what we've talked to the people that did it, and then what I've already noticed, I mean, there's probably about a 20 degrees difference, just getting underneath the shade there. So get things like that. I mean, it looks beautiful and it's awesome, but it generally that's something that actually will help us win. It really will, because we won't be missing practice time. There's been several times the last few years that we have to figure something out, or we end up going in a gymnasium, or it's just tough, man, when you can't do that. And so at this high of a level, you need every single thing you can get. So I'm really excited about that. Just that's something that our school invested in, and I think it's a huge step up for our program.
Yeah, I wanted to. You maybe you're not the person to ask this. Maybe I forget the construction company, but like it's still like it's obviously you called it a pavilion, so it's kind of open air can go through it, so it's not like a true quote unquote indoor.
Right.
Was there a reason for that? Is it just like a cost thing, or
Sure. Well, it definitely costs less.
sure?
I think you've seen a lot more teams doing that. Just from a financial standpoint, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Um, I've really liked it though a lot. I mean, there is a consistent, breeze a lot of times in there. And some of the indoors, and I've had this even from some college guys that had indoors. They don't even like the indoors they have, because sometimes they don't have heating or air in there, and it's not really there's not a lot of movement in there. So it's just it's sticky in there, and so yeah, you're inside, but it's not really, it's miserable in there sometimes. So I
Yeah.
think, I do like that. There's kind of a little bit of breeze.
Okay.
But it's been nice, man. I mean, in a perfect world, I think you still probably take the true indoor. But I think, for this, I couldn't be more thankful to our school system for doing that for us. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, it's something that's been talked
Yeah.
about for
A while.
I've been here 10 years. So, and there's still some things we've got to do better facility wise. I mean, we're hoping to get a little bit better weight room soon, those type of things. I mean, those are some things that are needed. So, but anyway, I mean, I think that was a big time win for our program, just because, I mean, our kids, I mean, I'm having to run them out of there right now.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, they want to come up here at
Yeah.
night and play around, all night. So, which is great, but
Yeah.
sometimes I mean, I'm having to kick them out of there now. So,
Yeah.
um, that's been great though.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention when I did one of these with Dr. Martin, I've joked with you for a while about some throwback jerseys when Hewitt was black and
Yeah,
gold,
yeah,
and he let you off the hook. I think he put it on Taylor over there at softball, since she's got the Nike Elite type
yeah, exactly. No,
deal or
you're.
whatever.
I heard that interview. Yeah, I know.
So
He-
you're off the hook.
yeah, we'll let the Nike Elite guys do it, or
There
girls.
you,
Girls,
there
we'll,
you
we'll
go.
let them do it. So it'd be
There
fun.
you go. Yeah, it would
I'm all
be.
about a throwback. Yellow and black. I don't even know. A lot of people don't even know that.
I know.
Uh, so
I'm trying to educate on the history part. You know me.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
always
know.
diving
That's
into
good.
something.
I like it. Well, we are getting new uniforms this year. We changed to
Good.
Nike this year, and so they
Okay.
will have a different look. We don't have them yet. We haven't released them out there yet, but they've got a little bit different look. I
You
think
gonna
you'll
do
like.
it? You gonna do a cool little reveal or something when they come in?
Well, that's the plan. That's the plan. So
Awesome. Awesome. I look forward to it.
definitely. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
you'll like it.
yeah, I'm sure.
You
I'm
like it?
sure. Is well, you probably can't answer
Yeah,
that.
I think you'll like them. They're not yellow. I'll tell you that. They're not yellow, but
no, no. Now I had to do this with Taylor too. It wasn't yellow. It was gold.
gold. Okay,
It's
I got you.
it's
Gold and black.
black
Black
and
and
gold,
gold. Okay,
up
got
until like 1954. So
you. There you go.
they were definitely different back then. So
Oh.
well, I appreciate you, Coach, and I'm sure I'll see y'all at some point during the 7A Region
Sure.
3 schedule this fall. And I live 5 minutes away, so I'm sure I'll see
Sure.
you at some point.
Definitely. I appreciate having me on, man. And thanks again for all you guys do, man, for high school football. It
Yeah,
helps. It's fun for the kids, man, for sure. So we
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, no problem at all. We love it. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, man.